Most people think that adultery only happens when someone cheats. But Jesus says something shocking in the Sermon on the Mount. He says that even looking at someone with lust is adultery of the heart. So what does Jesus actually mean in that part of the Sermon on the Mount? Was he exaggerating, or was he telling us something about our human heart? Let's take a look in this video. So in the Sermon of the Mount, we have Matthew 5:27 to 28, where Jesus is talking about adultery, and he says, "You shall not commit adultery." And then he goes on to say, in this verse here, "You have heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Wow, that's pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? And Jesus has many of these incredible statements in the Sermon on the Mount. He takes the existing law and then builds upon it. The first thing I want to talk about is Jesus actually raises the standard. Because when we think about it, do not commit adultery. That's one of the 10 Commandments. Easy. I haven't cheated before. I haven't committed adultery. Therefore, I'm actually a good person because of it. But Jesus takes it further and he says, well, no. And this is why it says, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God in Romans. Because the real issue is the heart. The commandment, one of the 10 Commandments says, do not commit adultery. But Jesus says the heart is the issue because the act begins long before the actual act happens. Because sin begins in that place of the heart and grows if we let it. And that is why it can lead to adultery. So the second point is sin actually starts in the heart. And he talks about this when he's talking about murder as well, but he says that anger starts in the heart, and then anger at its worst point or worst ending actually leads to murder, because anger is that seed that is planted. And in the same way, lust is the same seed that's planted, but for adultery. If we just look at the Old Testament story of King David and Bathsheba, if you know the story, David was in his palace and he was looking over to another balcony and saw Bathsheba bathing. And the issue wasn't that David looked. The issue was that David lingered in his eyes. The eyes are often attributed to be the windows to the soul. And because David continued to linger, he lusted. And then he committed multiple sins. He slept with her, got her pregnant, had her husband killed on the front lines, and committed and broke actually all 10 commandments in just this one little act. He didn't wake up and just commit adultery. He let himself feed upon that sin and that lust in the heart. In our human nature, our eyes are our windows, and it leads to the heart. And then, especially for men, but for all as well, lust starts in the heart and then it breeds. And so the third point is, this is why Jesus uses such extreme language. Because he then goes on to say after this adultery bit in the same section, he says, if your right eye causes you to sin or to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. Now, Jesus isn't being literal here. He is speaking metaphorically, of course. Please don't go and do that. That would be a terrible decision. But he's using strong language because he's showing how serious sin actually is. It is a serious offense against a holy God. Radical sin needs to be dealt with radically and not in a casual manner. It is a serious offense because it's something that can control us and destroy us. It keeps people trapped in their struggles, and especially in today's day and age with the rise of pornography and things like that, it keeps people trapped. And especially in today's age because it is something that can be done in secret, but it is not secret to our Heavenly Father. But it is one of the biggest spiritual battles that people face today. Jesus doesn't say this to shame people. He's saying it so that we can identify it and then be set free from it. And so the fourth point here is Again, the solution is not shame. It's about being transformed. He didn't raise that standard of the Old Testament to make us feel the weight of it and to bury us in it. He's showing us that we all fall short and none of us meet God's holy standard. But that is why Jesus came. That is why Jesus sacrificed himself. Jesus took our place because we couldn't. And that is why we have grace. And that is why we need to seek God daily. And that is why we need to renew our minds on a daily basis. Because the biggest problem is the human heart. Because Jesus is the only one who could fulfill that law and meet God's standards. He took it to the cross. He took our place. And freedom doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from resting in Jesus Christ. Resting in him. And this is why the Sermon on the Mount is so radical. Jesus wants us to live in a different way. He's wanting us to become a different person. A life full of holiness is actually freedom. It is not bondage. Living life for Christ actually brings freedom. When people outside of Jesus think it actually brings bondage, it does not. Our sin brings bondage. And with freedom through Jesus Christ, we can have our hearts changed by a holy God, and our lives will be changed as well because of that. So let me finish with this final question. When Jesus talks about the issues of the heart, why do you think he focuses on the heart issues rather than behavior modification? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. And if this video spoke to you today, please let me know as well. And thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Cheers. Thank you so much for watching this video. If this video spoke to you, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel, and also to like and comment on my videos to help this channel grow, where I continue to teach on biblical topics and things that I just find in my own personal study. And I hope you enjoy each and every one of these videos. Thank you so much.